Admittedly, it took me a little while to get into modern goth music. With most things, I usually start with more old school stuff and then work my way up. Like with punk, I typically like the 70s and 80s stuff the most. With metal, I started with the 80s and worked my way up, and it's no different for goth. So this is the band that got me into more modern goth music. I believe they're called Vacui. Hopefully I pronounced that right. I believe they're an Italian band. But I found this album and absolutely loved it. So this album is In Darkness You Will Feel Alright, and every single song on it is great. Some of my favorites are Black Rivers, Corvus Corax, Yersinia, In Darkness You Will Feel Alright. But the artwork is great. It's got super awesome bass on it. The guitar reverb is amazing. The vocals are really wailing, super death rock, kind of post-punk. I highly, highly recommend them. They've been getting quite popular over the years. Each album is really great. I've bought every single one since this one. I believe this is their first, no wait, this one might be their second album. I'd have to double check. The next one I've got is Night Sins. They're a little bit more dark wave. They've got a lot more synth to them. Typically I like stuff that's a little bit more instrumental, not as much with like, you know, anything closer to EBM or industrial, too much dark wave, cold wave kind of stuff. A lot of the time doesn't appeal to me as much, but this album really did. That kind of sound has been growing on me a lot more over the years. Bonus points for this album, looking super gorgeous. It's a really beautiful light blue. Almost looks like it glows in the dark, but Night Sins is really great. Some of my favorite songs off of this album are Crystal Blue, Dancing Chrome, and then I think probably my very favorite is Spire and Ecstasy. So this one I highly recommend. Now this band we pretty much have to talk about. Some people love them, some people hate them. I believe they're pronounced Molchat Doma. They are a Belarusian post-punk or new wave band, and they've got like a really cool nostalgic 80s sound to them, almost like a Joy Division if I had to compare them to anything. But I first found them through TikTok, if I'm being honest. They had a song called Sudno, I think is how it's pronounced, that got really, really popular. And honestly, it's well deserved. They are so much fun. I have all of their albums now on at least cassette. I only have this one on vinyl, but my boyfriend loves them and it's really hard to get him into other kinds of music. But I highly recommend this one. You've maybe even heard them before. They've pretty much been taking the goth scene by storm, I feel like, the last few years. So in this band, it's another one that, you know, honestly, I have a hard time pronouncing most of the bands that I listen to. So you'll probably hear me pronounce a lot of things wrong. They are a German post-punk band called, I think, Bleib Modern. They are so good. This album is All Is Fair in Love and War. It's the album that introduced me to them. It is very moody, kind of slow, really, really beautiful. Some of my favorite songs on it would be 8 Reasons. Lights of Me is probably my favorite song on here. Lisa is really good. Winter Mood is really good. Honestly, every song on this album is really good. I highly, highly recommend it. This one is also gorgeous. I paid a little extra for it since I missed the first pressing, but it was too gorgeous and it's become one of my favorite albums. So, especially during the winter, anything by this band is really good for winter. Super driving bass and wailing vocals. I really love it. This is the second album. I'm not going to show 2 albums for most of the bands that I talk about unless I feel it's really deserved, but this is another album. It's the second one that I got into by them. It's called Antagonism. It's also very gorgeous. I believe it's the second pressing. I love it when albums have records that complement the album art well, and both of these do that. This one is also incredibly moody, perfect for winter, and it's got really heavy, kind of apocalyptic vampire vibes to it. When you listen to it, or when I listen to it, I almost feel like I'm doomed. It's so, so good. Now, this one is Cryptology by Rosetta Stone. Rosetta Stone is a 90s goth band, but this album did come out in 2020, so I figure they're worth talking about. I really love it. If you love 90s goth or stuff like Sisters of Mercy, you'll really like Rosetta Stone. This album, it does have a little bit more of a modern sound to it, but it still sounds just as great as all old school goth bands. It's still got that 90s feel to it. My very favorite song on this is Valiant Try, but again, every track is great. When it first came out in 2020, I listened to it on repeat. I still listen to it on repeat. So I highly recommend Cryptology by Rosetta Stone. Again, this album is also really gorgeous. It's purple. I think as of now, you can still get this album on Bandcamp. So if you haven't, definitely do it. So this is another band that I found through Bandcamp. They're really cool. They're another great modern band. I believe they're from the UK, and I don't know, they don't have as much material out on Bandcamp right now, but they're definitely a band to keep an eye out on. They sent me this one. It's signed by them. I'm so thankful for it because it's really good. So I'll definitely be looking forward to more music from Ashcode. They're another kind of more post-punk band, but they've got, I feel like, a little bit of darkwave influence to them. I don't know. They're really worth a listen. So, and here's Vision Video. This is another one that I feel like has been getting really popular. A lot of people on TikTok especially are pretty familiar with Vision Video. I found them because I was posting on TikTok that I was gonna hopefully be buying a hearse soon, and almost just by fate, Dusty, the singer and guitarist of Vision Video, he had a video on TikTok of him getting his hearse named Charlene, and I was like, oh man, I'm so excited. I'm gonna be getting one soon too. And so we became friends over our hearses, and then I became a fan of their music. So it's really, really good. They have some fun music videos, big horror influences, and I don't know, it's a pretty meaningful album. It's been one of my very favorites. Their vinyl is super gorgeous as well. Like, the video does not do it justice. I only got two of them actually. I got the clear and the, I don't know, I guess it's called a red. It's kind of pinkish, but they're really good. My favorite song on it is Static Drone. Comfort in the Grave is really good. Inked in Red is really good. Honestly, the whole album is amazing. It's got some really good like Cure vibes to it, a little bit of Joy Division. If you like the Smiths, you might like them. I don't know, they sound very classic, but they're a little bit more goth pop. So definitely give Vision Video a listen. So, and here's Selofan. So this is their latest album, Partners in Hell. It took me a little bit longer to grow on this one, but because of their album before this one that I really loved, I think it's called Vitrioli. I loved this album so much. I regret not having it on vinyl. I discovered them too late. So this one is probably the one that most people know Selofan for. It's got their biggest song that I know of, which is Billy Was a Vampire. I'm Addicted is another favorite of mine off of this album. Give Me a Reason is really good. The whole album is amazing. And then this one is also really good. It really builds a sad and beautiful atmosphere to it. The Grey Garden is probably my favorite song on here. I don't know how you pronounce this one. I think it's Zeusamen. That's another one that I've noticed is a lot of people's favorites on here. But both albums are really good. Definitely give Selofan a listen. I think they're from Greece. They have a little bit more of like a cold wave, kind of dark wave sound to them, but they're super beautiful. Vandal Moon is another one that I discovered in 2020. This album came out in February of 2020, I believe. It's called Black Kiss. Funnily enough, the reason that I bought this album, I found them on Bandcamp, and I was looking for cassette tapes because if you know me, I love cassette tapes. And the thing that caught my eye on it was that it's purple. I love the purple of it. Here, I'll see if I can get it closer. It's really, really cute. I love it. But that's the reason I bought this album originally. You could only listen to 2 songs on it before it was fully released. So I took a little bit of a gamble because I had never listened to Vandal Moon before. The only 2 songs you could listen to were Hurt and Dead, which are still 2 of my very favorite songs on the album. The whole album is great. It's really got some kind of cool 80s new wave synth pop kind of vibes to it. It's kind of dark wave, it's got some post-punk influence. It's really, really good. They are based out of California. The vinyl is really pretty too. It's this blue that kind of complements the album. It's kind of got like some lonely vibes to it, but also really fun at the same time. So this one is really worth listening to. So in this band, I unfortunately only have on cassette tape, so it's a little bit harder to see. It is a really pretty tape. It's this nice gold color. They've got a good font on it. So this band is Secret Shame. The album is Dark Synthetics. It's really beautiful. It has some old school sounds to it. Like if you like Susie and the Banshees or Skeletal Family, or maybe even like Ex-Mal Deutschland, you might like this band. My favorite song on here is, I don't know, it's kind of hard to choose. Maybe Comfort. Either Comfort or Creature, probably. But this one is really good. I love listening to it when I'm like walking around the cemetery at night. And they are from North Carolina. This is another one that I unfortunately only have on tape. It is Blood Bells. The album is A Time for Roses. I don't know if they have the cassette tape anymore. I originally found them through Bandcamp. But they have a really old school post-punk sound to them. It almost sounds like it could have been out of the 80s. Probably some of my favorite songs on here would be Destroy, Veins, and A Time for Roses. So, you know, they're just such a cool kind of death rock post-punk duo. I highly recommend listening to them. So, and this is Forever Grey. The album is Departed. They are a lot more kind of dark wave, maybe cold wave-esque with some post-punk influence. It took me a little bit longer to find these guys, but I really am glad I did. This album is also super gorgeous. I bought it on vinyl and cassette. The cassette is the same color as the vinyl. It's just super, super pretty. Some of my favorite songs on here would be Common Coffin. I feel like that's one of their more popular songs. Lost in a Moment and Open Grave. The whole album is such a vibe though. This is another band that I feel like has been gaining quite a bit in popularity. It's Rosegarden Funeral Party. This album is the one that I discovered them through. I think my favorite album by them at this point might be Martyr. My favorite song by them is not on either of these albums, Martyr or At the Stake, but it's called Once in a While. It's got an excellent music video. But this album is At the Stake. It's got some really good songs on it. If you like Susie and the Banshees, you might like them. It's got some really good female vocals. Probably my favorite song on this album is Fear of Feeling Nothing and Tortured Decline. You can't see how cool the album artwork is. Hopefully there you can see it a little bit better. The vinyl is a really gorgeous red. They've got a heavy red and black theme going on that I love. I love when bands have like color themes, or that at least albums have color themes. It's something that's like a weakness of mine. So this is another one, Geometric Vision. I found them through Bandcamp, as I do, it seems, most of my favorite new goth bands. I don't know, I'm addicted to Bandcamp. If anyone asks me what my favorite place to shop is, they usually ask for clothes, but to be honest, my favorite store is Bandcamp. So that's where I spend like most of my paycheck at. But Geometric Vision's really good. They are definitely a more modern sound, but you can hear the old school influence. These guys, I would say, are probably a little bit more post-punk, but has some goth rock in there too. This album is pretty much just a lot of slow motion, but it's got some remixes of bands that I've talked about or bands that you maybe already know. There's a Molchat Doma remix, an Ash Code remix. We talked about both of them. Hapax, or I think that's how you say them. I've got another one of their albums too that I'll end up talking about. It's got a remix from them, and Twin Tribes. Twin Tribes I know is one that a lot of people know. So this album has like a remix of their song Slowemotion with like all of those bands remixing it. So they're really worth listening to though. Here's the band Hapax that I was just talking about. This one's a live album by them, so I'm used to hearing their live songs or live versions of these songs a little bit more. But Traders is definitely my favorite one by them. The whole album is really good though. I highly recommend listening to them. So, and this one is Grooving in Green. The album is Stranglehold. They have a little bit more of a heavy sound to them, so if you know Merciful Nuns, I'll probably talk about them also. Then you probably would like this band too. They're just a little bit heavier, still pretty goth rock. They're a pretty fun band, I would say. Like if you like death rock, you might like them also. My favorite song on here is probably Stranglehold. I also really like More News on Nothing. The whole thing is great though. This one is one of my very favorites. It's a Brazilian band called Plastique Noir. This album is Deadpop. It's one of their older ones. It looks like it came out in 2008, but they do still put out new music. Their new albums are really good as well, but this one's my favorite. So I love the art on it and everything. It's a little bit in contrast to some of these other albums that are a little bit more darker, but the whole album is such a mood. I really love it. Inconstancy, I really love. Imaginary Walls. Let's see. Desire or Disease is my favorite song on here. Shadow Run is really good. Empty Streets. Morphine Days is absolutely amazing. I highly recommend this whole album. You should check out their entire discography if you really like them, but I would recommend starting with this one. And here we've got Tears for the Dying from Atlanta, Georgia. They are, I believe, a all-female kind of death rock band. They are so good. If you like classic punk music, you'll probably like them. If you like 45 Grave, you might like them. They're a little bit more political than some other goth bands, but I kind of like that about them. This album, if you buy the CD, it's not on here, but if you buy it on Bandcamp, they have an excellent cover of Spiritual Cramp by Christian Death. So if you're a Christian Death fan, I highly recommend them. One of my favorite songs on here is Lost Girls. I think it's supposed to be kind of based on Lost Boys. You know, the vampire movie from the 80s? Yes. The Long Losts are a really fun band. I think it's just a guy and a girl. They are really cool though. My favorite song on this album is To Be Like Lily. It's a song about Lily Munster from the Munsters. It's really cute, makes me want to be a goth housewife. It's one of my favorite songs to listen to when driving around in the hearse. But this album is so much fun. Their other albums are really great too. And the album name is Scary Songs to Play in the Dark. So, and this one is Lebanon, Hanover, Tomb for Two. This is another band that a lot of you probably already know, but you know, I have to talk about them for anyone who doesn't. Most people really love them. They're another one that's really popular today. This is the album that got me into them. All of their albums are completely excellent though. Some of the favorite songs for me on here are of course Gallow Dance. Probably my very favorite song on here is I Believe You Can Survive. Hall of Ice is another one that I really, really love. The whole album is super good. Another band that's perfect for like walking in the cemetery. They have a very kind of lonely sound to them, super melancholic, but if you haven't listened to Lebanon Hanover already, definitely do it. I believe they are a German band. And here I've got Nox Novacula. They are excellent too. Again, if you like Susie and the Banshees, give them a listen. They've got kind of those wailing female vocals, really powerful, super excellent. Probably my favorite song on this one is Michelle. That's the song that got me into this band. This album, again, is really pretty. I have a weakness for red albums. But yeah, they've got a little bit of an old school sound to them, but still sound quite modern. If you are into powerful female vocals that are a little bit melancholic, definitely give them a listen. If you like Rosegarden Funeral Party, there's a good chance you would also like this band as well. And this one is Delphine Coma. Again, they are another band that I found through Bandcamp. This one has a lot more of a modern sound to it. It took me a minute to like them, but they grew on me. It also didn't help that this album is absolutely gorgeous, so I had to have it. The song that I first listened to by them was Plastic Flowers. I ordered this album on a pre-order, so I couldn't listen to the full album at the time. The whole album is really good though. The other song that I think is probably my favorite on here is Secondary Eyes. For those that like Molchat Doma, I know they're from Belarus, but everyone thinks they're from Russia. This is a Russian post-punk band. I believe they're pronounced Chernaya Rechka. I think that is Black River in English. Definitely, if you like Russian post-punk and you haven't listened to them, give them a chance. And here's another Russian post-punk band. This one is Little Fantastic Partners. They are so much fun. I really love them. They've got kind of a unique, moody sound to them. It's No Crime is my favorite song on this album. The tape is really pretty. I feel like this band's also been getting pretty popular among the people that do listen to Russian post-punk. So if that's something that you want to get into, just, I don't know, I haven't found a bad Russian post-punk band yet. So, I don't know, maybe go down that rabbit hole. Here's another one that people may know. I have the tape for it. It's a red tape. I feel like we've got a red theme going on with most of the albums I'm showing off. This is Boy Harsher's Lesser Man. They give me the feeling of like walking down the street alone at night. Pain is the song that most people know by them. It's definitely my favorite on this. All of the songs are really good though. Lust is another one that's a favorite of mine on here. That's the starting track. If you want something that kind of makes you feel like a badass, listen to this. Here is Detoxi's First Flesh. Here we go, breaking that red cycle. We've got a green tape with some purple font. It's really pretty. They have more of a punk sound to them. I would probably call them a death rock band. Masks and Black Square are probably my two favorite songs on here. I'll be doing multiple parts to this because there's a lot of bands that I want to cover. There are so many great new goth bands today. I feel like everyone always talks about how the 80s was the best. Goth is really, trad goth is the best. You have to listen to all the staples like Sisters of Mercy, The Cure, Bauhaus, Susie and the Banshees, Joy Division, all of those. But we've got a really vibrant scene here today with all of these amazing bands. And there are so many that I really hope I get to see live. So, if you want to be a part of the goth scene, don't think it's dead. It's really, really not. So give all of these awesome new bands a try, and I'll be recommending more of them for you. Tell me what your favorite ones are, or if there's one that I haven't talked about yet, let me know. Maybe I haven't listened to them yet, and I'd love to give them a try. I also have some goth playlists that I think are worth looking into. I've got one here on YouTube. It's just listed, I think, either current or modern goth bands, and I have another one on Spotify. It's a little bit bigger on Spotify. They both have a little bit of a different selection, just based on what's available on each platform. But on Spotify, it is pretty large. I try to add to both playlists periodically, so when I find more, I try to update them. So if you want more bands than the ones I listed here, or if you want to know where to find them, I try to add them all in those playlists. So definitely take a look there as well.